Hello everybody and welcome to Breaking the Cycle to Step Forward. This is episode 20 and today we're calling this The Power of Speaking Out. I'm Beverley Ann and I'm joined as always by
Chris Tuck.
And it's 30 minutes, or should we just say around 30 minutes?
Have you seen that I've changed our paragraph? 30 to 45-minute conversation, I've changed it to.
And it's just imagine you've got a couple of people sitting around the table having a cup of coffee and they're having authentic chat. That comes from our own lived experience, but also from a professional perspective as well, because we're both professionals in this area in different ways. So Chris, do you want to open up your thoughts about what we were speaking about earlier?
Yeah, I think the power of speaking out for many people that we know has been a positive thing for us, but not everybody wants to speak out in the way that we do. But I know for a fact that when someone does have the opportunity to speak out, whether it is in a group or a public space, they want to carry on and do more of that. Unfortunately, though, there are limited opportunities for those things to happen. There aren't many events where a lot of victims and survivors can come together and actually speak out at the same time. And over the years, with Phil Lafferty, we've been up and down the country creating events where victims and survivors can come together and actually speak their truth, own their story, share what has happened to them, share the impact upon them. And every person that I know that has ever attended one of those events, for example, or is in the peer-to-peer support group, and they are speaking to like-minded people that have literally walked in their shoes and maybe a bit further on in their journey of healing, they find it really empowering. What about you?
Absolutely everything that you're saying, Chris. And I have been at one of Phil Lafferty's Voice in CSA events, and we've both got videos from that as well. I remember when I was ready to start, as I, in my own mind, putting my head above the parapet, because there's a real fear there. And one thing I will say, it takes a lot of self-preservation. So even just to think about speaking and preparing the speech, it's yourself. It's about owning what it is you want to share, but also preparing yourself, because sometimes it's not taken in the way that you want it to.
Yeah,
because
it's not received the way you want it. Yeah,
because we don't have control over who's receiving it
and how they're receiving it.
Yes. And even though we try and have a clear message, it's subjective to that person. So it's really making sure that our own self-care is in place first, and I'm precious about that. And hence, so I've changed my surname. I've recently got married, but I have a different name out there publicly, professionally, to my private life. And that's so that I get that little bit of change. So it's still me, but I want to know that that's my public, and then I've got my private to a certain extent, not because of anything, not because I'm ashamed of anything, but it's also because of others around me, and it gives them their anonymity.
Yeah, so that's really interesting you say that, because obviously I do know your names, but I never knew the reason behind it. I just thought maybe, oh, maybe she's not caught up with changing her name yet. But that does give you a sense of anonymity if you really do want that, doesn't it? So that is a good point for other people if that's what they want to do as well.
Absolutely, and it's about choice, because also I'm aware that when I share my story, that I've got siblings, etc., who, you know, they're in different places, and I never mention them in name or anything, because it's their story to share if they ever wanted to and when they ever wanted to. And yes, I would support that. And so that's where I'm very aware. And also sometimes it's and I'm not going to say anything here because it's too personal and I want to give them their space. But the comments that I sometimes get from, you know, close people is, that's all in the past. I know, even now. But you know what's behind all of that? It's a lot of fear.
What do you mean?
What are they going to hear?
And what they're fearful of, what they're going to hear, and they're fearful of what maybe we're going to expect from them.
Yes, yes. But we also get more than just fear. We also get anger. So anger is directed when people want to be able to speak out and feel that they haven't got the opportunity, or why are you speaking out about this?
Yeah, especially in families that the reputation is everything, and some cultures are like that as well. You know, reputation is everything, and don't hang your dirty linen out or your dirty laundry out in public. That's to be kept in the household. You're going to bring shame on us, and all of that kind of narrative, which obviously is not conducive for a victim and survivor's healing, unfortunately.
No. And that's why we're going to get, so, you know, we're being honest here. These are some of the things that happen. Now, you and I, in a place of our journey, our healing, our recovery, whatever ways you want to say it, is that we choose what we're going to speak about. But quite frankly, if I've chosen to speak about it, if somebody doesn't want to hear it, then turn it off.
Yeah, exactly.
Because that is part of me.
Yeah. I think, though, that the power of speaking out on a personal level, and that's all we can really do, is talk about on a personal level, and also what other people have shared with us.
Yes.
Is once you have found your voice, I don't know about you, but once I've found my voice, I can't shut up about any injustice or oppression or inequality of power and control over others. And I almost have to stick up for or speak up against all of that and any of that. And it's exhausting. So you really do have to learn to pick your battles and know when to walk away from something that is not going to change at all, no matter what you say. And also escalate the conversation with your knowledge and expertise and lived experience if people are listening and are open to that and want to actually make changes in this area.
Absolutely. And that's one of the things that I had to learn as well, because we all want to be liked. Let's be honest.
We do. We're human, aren't we?
And we were talking in our last podcast about people pleasing.
Yeah.
And so this goes against, well, not against it, you know, we have traits of people pleasing. So suddenly it's like, oh, we're doing what we want to do, what's important for us. And we can't make those decisions for other people. But like you, I don't like injustice. But I've come to realise through practice as well that sometimes there are times when somebody's so stuck in how they want to see things, so rigid in their views and beliefs, that, like you say, no matter what you say and how you approach it, it's not going to happen. But so I'm very much about education. So even in a gentle conversation, I will really try to keep calm and say, have you thought about this? Or, you know, and someone might say, oh, but we've always done it. Just because we've always done it that way doesn't mean to say we can't do it a different way. It's like opening a banana. I remember this from a sales technique years ago, and everyone's going to try it now. What way do you open your banana, Chris, when you eat a banana?
I open it from the stalk, and I know that's incorrect.
There's no correct way or incorrect way. You do it from the stalk. Did you know if you turn it the other way and you've got the flat end, you can still open it that end and you still get the same banana?
Well, of course you do, unless there's something else growing in there.
But it's an example
I know
of how,
what you mean.
We can do it in different ways, but we just do it one way. Now I mix it up, but that was when I first learned to do that. So and I like an analogy. So coming back to what we're saying is, yeah, I can't keep quiet. I really don't like people being silenced. But I like people to have their opinion. I love a good discussion, but let's hear it from both sides.
Yeah.
So there's a court case going on at the moment, which I'm really waiting to hear what the outcome is. It's the Ryan Giggs one.
Not really been following that, so you need to fill me in.
Well, I have, because it's about physical abuse and emotional abuse.
Okay.
What's really interesting is some of the things that have been said.
Go on.
So you know, how he's such a good football player.
Oh, yeah.
It's this, it's that.
And there's been credibility.
Yeah, and there's been some victim blaming. You know, is she just after money, etc.? And I was like, you've got physical evidence there. She phones up the 999. It's not about what he's like as a person. It's about
what he's doing.
Yeah. But again, I don't get angry when I'm challenging that. And I just say, how would you feel if that was your daughter? And I like to do it in those ways, or continue to have my view and share it and allow that person to come back to me sometimes saying, I still don't agree with you.
Yeah, and that's fine.
You've got your opinion, I've got my opinion. So we'll wait and see what happens with Ryan Giggs. I'm very interested to see what's going to happen there.
And obviously there's been other profile cases, we won't name them, but there's been other profile cases in the media, and it's been portrayed a certain way, and now other things are now coming out after the said facts of the case. So I've deliberately kept quiet on those high profile cases because I'm still mulling over myself exactly what's going on. And to be blunt, my brain can only deal with so much trauma at a time, like anybody's. And if I've got lots of my own personal stuff going on, I then can't take on lots of other stuff as well. So when I've not got so much going on for me, then I can watch, delve, and have those conversations when I've got space.
Absolutely. And that's good self-care practice.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, because what you're saying is, this is what I can manage. This is what I'd like to do. And when you're in the right space, you will do. And that's why we like talking about things like this, because speaking out, whilst it does have that side and people are always going to have their opinion, there's also another side. And like for me, I always say when I'm speaking out, there's 4 reasons. The first reason is for me. It's for the voice I didn't have as a child. The second important reason is for any other victim or survivor who feels that they're on their own and they've never been able to speak out about it, to say, you know what, you're not alone. And that's why we do what we do. The third reason is to raise awareness for anyone who has never been in an abusive situation. Because if you're wanting to learn how to support someone, just listen to us, because sometimes there's not a lot for you to do, but listen to the person who's talking to you. You can't change anything, but having someone to listen to makes a difference. And, you know, if you're not a survivor of sexual, physical, or emotional abuse, it can be daunting at times. What am I going to hear? But actually, you're there by listening, makes such a difference. But 4th reason is for proactive prevention of abuse going forward, so that people are aware of the signals and the signs and will react and go and speak to someone on their behalf.
Yeah, especially if they don't know what to do. First of all, just listen, and then go and get someone that is able to do something about it. So
Absolutely.
You could literally be the link between the victim survivor and the help.
Yeah.
They can't do that by themselves. So you literally are that linchpin between the two. So
like with us, you know, we support each other, but I've got friends that have had totally different childhoods. They're there as supporters, but there are some things I'm not going to discuss with them. They'll hear these videos, etc., and they like hearing, and some of the feedback is amazing, and how they pass it on to other people to support them and to open a conversation. But then there's other professionals, you know, that we will go even deeper with, such as yourself at the moment with your therapy that you're taking part in, and been very I can't lost my words.
Open about. So going back to the power of speaking out, we've sort of like said what it does for us, and we've sort of like said what it does for other people. And once you've had the opportunity to speak out, you're constantly looking for other opportunities. And as we said, these opportunities aren't vast, they're quite scarce. And it is almost like when we first started, we had to create our own opportunities, didn't we? And like this podcast, this is an opportunity for me and you to educate, to raise awareness, and just for us to keep using our voices and our experience, because it's important for us. We all, as human beings, especially victims and survivors, we want to be heard, we want to be validated, we want to be acknowledged. And when we are not being heard, when we have been heard, and then those opportunities are not coming along, and we're almost like in our box feeling silenced again, this is a feeling for me, I don't know about you, but it's a feeling for me when those opportunities are not coming along. When you see other people getting these opportunities, you're like, well, why is that not me? Yeah, I never feel resentful against the person that's having the opportunity, but I'm resentful that the fact that I'm not getting that opportunity. And I don't mind sharing it, because I know there's lots of people that feel like this. Yeah, and I know that when I get the opportunities, that there are people that are resentful and jealous that I have the opportunity. So I've been in their shoes. I know what it feels like, and it almost feels like you're being silenced. You're not being acknowledged. You're not being validated. And I was speaking to my counsellor about this week, purely because going through the criminal justice system for the last 5 years, you've gone through the abuse, you've spoken up about the abuse to all of these different institutions, the police, social services, your school. You're not believed, you're silenced. For me, I write a book. It's out there, it helps people. Theresa May read it. The inquiry didn't happen because of my book, but I felt really touched that book played a role in her understanding the importance of the inquiry. So for me, lots of people don't like Theresa May, but for me, that's a badge for me, because it validated my truth, okay, because of what she said to me. Then, you know, other opportunities come along, and I'm like thankful, I'm grateful, and all the rest of it. But then you start getting sort of like knocked back by the criminal justice system, i.e., no further action. You go to appeal, no further action. It's almost like you're being disbelieved, even though it's not. It feels like you're being disbelieved. It feels like no one wants to hear from you. And then when you do get the opportunity to speak out, whatever platform it is, and you're passionate, and it might come across as angry, it's not. You're passionate because of what it's, you know, what the impact is on you, it's had on you. And then you don't get those opportunities, and you're back in your brain box, and you get all of these feelings. When you see someone else like out there, they've probably been working their backsides off for years to get those opportunities, just like we have. So I'm not, as I said, I'm not resentful at them, because whoever's speaking out is doing a bloody good job, and we should all be on the same side, and we should all be encouraging, we should all be supportive. But it's the fact that you haven't got that opportunity that really sends you into a bit of a spiral. And the only way you can get out of that, really, on a personal level, is to make your own opportunities if those opportunities are not coming to you. Absolutely. What do you think about any of that?
Absolutely. And so from a professional, I'm going to answer this from a professional perspective. So when we look at the psychodynamics of when we're adults, how we react is what we have learned when we're children growing up, okay? That's through reacting ourselves to different situations. And as we've already said, there's a physicality about that, and that also involves emotions, which we often push down. But there's also a reaction because of the beliefs of people around us. So, for instance, sticks and stones will break my bones, but words will never hurt me. Well, actually, I couldn't think of a worse phrase. But that's part of the thing we said about words don't hurt. Words do hurt. You know, they're very powerful. And that's why we're talking about the power of speaking out. So when we come into adulthood, we may be adults, but there'll always be part of that. That's who we are. You know, in the internal family system, they'll say there is no bad part of us, but it's a natural right to be jealous at times, because that child is saying, I want to be heard. I want to be validated. You know, it's important. And I know, you know, when we went into the first lockdown, that absolute fear that I experienced myself of being isolated, I felt like, you know, and at the time I lived in rural, so I only had one neighbour. I lived on my own with my dog, but that fear of isolation, of being shut away, of not having a choice, for me, that was like, whoa. And so I found a way to use my voice for a while, but then again, when I did use my voice, I got quite attacked at once or twice, and that's why online. And that's why I took the decision, well, self-care here, and I came off for a while. But that is what we've learned. Think about when we're in the playground as children at schools, infants, juniors, seniors. We all have independent ways of living before we start school. But then once we start that community, we learn to adapt to be part of that community. And if someone's telling us through their messages, or we're being told by a perpetrator not to speak out, when we do get that opportunity to speak out, we're like, I don't want to stop now.
So we've talked about if the opportunity is not there for you to carry on speaking for whatever reason, to create your own opportunities. That's all what people have got to do. They can do it, as we said, in a peer-to-peer support group. They can do written text, can't they, and put it out there. They could write a blog. They could start up their own peer-to-peer support group. So there's lots of ways that people can actually start having this ripple effect out in society and in their communities by writing blogs and putting it out there. And we're more than happy to share them. By doing even what we're doing, having these conversations. And that's what I like about when we ask for comments and feedback, because somebody's given some feedback, and I'm sharing it online on one of the podcasts, because they felt unable to say it, but they can write it and it can go there anonymously. And I know when I very first started blogging about my story and wanting to speak about it, I blogged under a different name, because that was right for me. That was right for me. And I needed to test the waters from how I was going to react if I didn't get the reaction that I was hoping to get. And that's to be received. And again, isn't it? It's really difficult for those that feel that they're not getting the opportunities to speak out in the way that they want. But it's just keep on keeping on, keep knocking at some doors, and eventually there will be an opportunity for you. But I think at this stage, the resentment and the jealousy that I may hold, that you may hold, and any other person out there that may hold against people that are more successful in speaking out, it's got to go, because it's not helping anyone. If anything, it's damaging, because for those people that have been silenced and want to speak out, when they see someone speaking out, being trolled, have hate put on them, a bit like you explained, you was given a lot of hassle, then what you're going to do, you're going to retreat. And it also sends a message out to all of those other people that haven't spoken out yet and want to. They're going to go, ooh, if that's happening to her, I don't want that happening to me. So it silences them again. And it's not right. It's a form of bullying. And we should, as a victim and survivor, I don't want to call it community because it's not community, a victim survivor world, whatever we want to call each other, the grouping is, we should be supporting each other, and we should be raising people, we should be lifting them and going, you know what, you're doing a bloody fantastic job. And I really do wish I had opportunities like you, but I'm getting my own opportunities, I'm making them happen. But I'm really glad that at least someone is having the opportunity to speak and change the conversation and change the narrative, or challenge the narrative and the conversation.
Absolutely, because we all come in at this from different ways as well. So if I find I'm watching something and I'm getting those feelings, because I'm a human being, I'm not saying I'm not, that's when I check in with myself, and I check into that inner child, that little girl or that teenager that is feeling they're not heard. What is it that you're feeling, Beverley? And what is it that you want? What is it that you want? Okay, this isn't that person. And you realise once you go into depth, it's not that person. It's about something you're not feeling at that time. And do you know what, Chris? This is what's really interesting sometimes. It's not even about that person. It's often reflecting, or as we've spoken about, mirroring a situation that's happening in my everyday life where somebody else isn't listening to me, or I feel that I'm not being heard. And that's quite an interesting perspective for anyone listening to think about that.
That's what my counsellor said, because I described a certain situation to her that I'm keeping private, but she said, you are not angry, jealous or resentful to that person. What it is the failings that you've been up against the whole of your life. You're angry at that, and you're angry at not having the opportunity to speak up for the little person, and as an adult, knowing what you know, having the opportunity to share the bigger picture, the wider landscape of how it all fits in. She said, that is your frustration, she said, and that is absolutely fine to feel like that. But just know, me as a person and anyone else out there that finds themselves in the same situation, not to put your anger over there where it's not meant to, because that's misplaced. Put the anger back over here to those caregivers, perpetrators, to the bullies, to whatever's going on. Put it back to where it belongs. And if you can, when you're feeling those feelings, if you can do exactly what you said, check in with yourself. What's going on? Why is it going on? And then shift how you're feeling and put the blame, the anger, the emotion, whatever emotion it is you're feeling, put it back to where it should be. And she said, your life will just turn completely the other way round.
Absolutely.
So, practice.
And it is practice, because anger is an emotion. And it's important to acknowledge it, but we try to suppress it, because
we've been told to.
Keep calm and have a cup of tea. Whereas I love countries that are passionate and they get it out, and that's it. It's done. It's done. But that's when anger becomes bitterness, and the only one who carries it around is yourself. And it's heavy and it's horrible, and it's destructive mentally, physically and emotionally.
I think it also pushes you back. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. Pushes you back into like a victim kind of mode. It's almost like, why me? Life's why can't I? And it really brings you down, rather than opening you up to going and getting those opportunities, or creating those opportunities, or go, well, actually, you know what, Beverley, she's over there doing that. I think it's fantastic. How can I get involved in that? Beverley, do you mind me asking how you've got into that? Are there any other opportunities? I could come to you direct and ask you, or I could go, wow, okay, how could I take that and what she's doing and do it in my own way? So you're supporting the person in front of you, because I think you do an amazing job, lovely. And by the way, I'm not jealous of you at all. It's not you that I spoke about in therapy. Actually, I don't know whether that was a compliment or a diss there. Sorry.
No, I'll take it as a compliment.
Of you, Beverley.
I'm taking it as a compliment. I'm taking it as a compliment. And that's why we work well together. So yeah. I'll give that goes back to you too.
But what I'm saying is that, you know, if there's someone up there shining a light, leading the way, how can you complement what they're doing, but doing it in your own way? So you are not trying to become another person. You're being your own authentic self, and you're doing things in your own way, and you're adding value to the world. And in that, you're building your own self-esteem, your own self-worth, and you're also finding out who you actually are.
Yeah, because let's be honest, you and I are different. We've spoken about this in other podcasts. We come together, we have commonalities, but it doesn't mean to say we always agree. We have our own opinions.
Yeah.
I am going to remind you though now, because we're 32 minutes into this podcast, because I've been watching. So any last thoughts, Chris?
I just think victim and survivors have been through so much that we need to be able to support each other, as I said, lift each other up, not put each other down, no matter what our opinion is. Yeah. And you know what? If I don't agree with you, Beverley, and I can't have a conversation that is level, stable, and without anger and aggression and all the rest of it, just to walk away.
Absolutely.
Just to walk away.
Yeah. And that's having our own boundaries. And our own boundaries and our own self-care.
I think we've done a podcast on that already.
We have. I'd just like to, there's one thing I'm going to say here, and I'm going to mention it. It's LinkedIn platform. I remember when I very first started, one of my frustrations was in the corporate world, in the business world, and particularly LinkedIn, that was representative of it, how we talked about strength and resilience. God forbid we mention the word vulnerability, because vulnerable, failing, not able to.
Oh, they don't want to hear about that, yeah.
No, but it's really lovely to see how it's evolved, and that's really come out. And if there's going to be a positive around, all the isolation, etc., I think that really helped bring that out. And we talk about wellness now in all forms. Mental health. We talk about abuse, etc. And in a way that I really like it, in that we do open the conversation, and these are adults and what they've overcome. And so I'm going to say, I'm really pleased to see those voices opening up, the conversations to opening up. And for me, it's very heartwarming when you consider that the biggest cost to business is sickness due to stress. And that stress isn't just today. It may be that you've just gone through a divorce or a bereavement, but when it's longer term, it goes back to non-recent abuse and trauma. So for me, I'm really pleased to see that voice being heard on there.
Yeah, and I do agree with you, but I also believe, and I've seen for myself, other platforms are shutting free speech and silencing some voices.
Oh, absolutely.
God forbid you have a different opinion to somebody else, and God forbid you state that opinion, or you are resharing facts or whatever it happens to be, and you're being silenced. And I think that's also played a bit into how I'm feeling, is because I'm sharing stuff for truth and transparency, and also so that I can empower other people and educate. But when it all gets shut down, or it's not being shared as social media platforms should be sharing, it adds to the silencing you and putting you in a box. And I think that's not helped.
No, and I am going to mention them, Facebook, with their fact checkers. Maybe they need to check their fact checkers, because if they're removing all the information that they currently do, then they need to go back in history and remove a lot of the history, because there are some facts there that would have been removed then, and they are removing things that is only in their opinion. It is actually a fact that's being shared. So I'm going to name and shame them, because I find that very frustrating. Yeah.
And also what I wanted to say, perhaps I shouldn't go there, perhaps I should save that for another day. I should save that for another day. It's too big a box to open up.
Well, once again, we are going to have to say we come to an end. Anyone listening, please, as we always say, if you've got something you want to say, comment on YouTube, on the YouTube channel. We're now getting our Facebook page up and running, so you can comment there. If you don't want your comment to be seen by anyone, you can email us and we can add that comment and respond to you privately. Whatever's right for you is right for us.
Absolutely, 100%.
So, Chris, goodbye for this week.
Goodbye, everyone. See you soon. Bye.
See you soon, and thank you for listening.
Thank you.